What if I told you the secret to predicting divorce is already hidden in your arguments? Because according to Dr. John Gottman, a psychologist who studied marriages for over 40 years, there are 4 toxic behaviors known as the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse that can predict divorce with 94% accuracy. And once they show up, they don't just hurt your relationship, they start pulling it apart, piece by piece. In this video, you'll learn exactly what these 4 signs are, how to spot them in your relationship, and at the end, I'll share the exact strategy I use with my clients to eliminate these 4 horsemen for good. So stick around because you don't want to miss this. I'm Jordan Travers, a licensed therapist. Let's break it down. The first horseman, criticism. Imagine a relationship where every day feels like a test, one that you're destined to fail. It's like you're being graded, and no matter what you do, you're always falling short. You never think about anyone but yourself, or you always screw things up, or why are you always late? At first, you try harder, you double check everything and make fewer mistakes, but the criticism never stops because you realize eventually it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. It's not about feedback, it's a running list of why you will never be good enough. And one day, you stop trying because no matter what you do, your partner will always find a way to make you feel small. That's criticism. Not pointing out a mistake, but attacking someone's character. Gottman's research found that criticism is one of the biggest predictors of divorce because it makes love feel like a performance, one where you're always being judged. And when criticism festers, it turns into something even worse. The second horseman, contempt. This usually begins as a joke. They tease you about your cooking or the way you dress or how you tell stories. You laugh along because it's harmless, right? But then the jokes don't stop. One night, in front of your friends, they casually say, "Yeah, she tries, but she's not exactly domestic." Everyone laughs, and you do too. But inside, you feel humiliated. And that's when you realize you're not their partner anymore. You're just the punchline. But what you don't know is that deep down, they don't even think it's funny. Somewhere along the way, they stop seeing you as their equal. They don't just feel frustrated, they feel superior. And the more the resentment builds, the less they respect you. It's not about working things out anymore, it's about winning. That's contempt. Dr. John Gottman's research found that contempt isn't just bad for relationships, it's actually the #1 predictor of divorce. Because when one person looks down on their partner, love turns into resentment. And once respect is gone, everything else starts to crumble. The third horseman, defensiveness. At first, she thinks he'll step up. You've handled most of the housework before, but now that you have kids, things have to change. One evening, sick and exhausted, you finally ask, "Can you help out more around the house?" Without hesitation, they snap. "I work long hours. Am I supposed to do everything?" A reply you expect, but desperately don't want to hear. Frustration boils over. "I do everything. The least you could do was help." "I help plenty." You just love to complain. The fight spirals, but nothing changes. The same argument plays on repeat until one day you realize you aren't solving anything. You aren't even arguing about housework anymore. You're just arguing about arguing. And that's defensiveness. Dr. John Gottman's research shows that when one partner constantly deflects responsibility, conversations turn into battles of who's right instead of fixing the problem. And when every fight is a competition, both sides lose. After enough arguments, after enough exhaustion, one of them just stops trying. The fourth horseman, stonewalling. It starts small. Less talking, skip dinners, conversations reduced to bills and schedules. No fights, just silence. One day you pull into the driveway, see their car, and exhale into your hands. That's when it hits you. You don't even want to go inside. Not because you're angry, not because you have somewhere else to be, but because home doesn't feel like home anymore. That's what stonewalling looks like. It's not screaming matches. It's not dramatic exits. It's the slow, silent pulling away. until two people are nothing more than strangers who share a space. Dr. John Gottman found that when one partner constantly shuts down, emotionally withdraws, or avoids difficult conversations, the relationship is on a fast track to breaking apart. And once stonewalling starts, it only gets worse. Because when one partner stops engaging, the other starts reaching out. And before either of them realizes it, there's nothing left to fight for. If you see yourself in any of this, you're not alone. Drop your experience in the comments. Have you noticed one of these showing up in your relationship? And if you found this helpful so far, hit like. It helps more people see this and start fixing their relationships too. Now let's get to the most important part: how to eliminate these four horsemen from your marriage and make sure you are taking notes. Number 1, change how you communicate. The way you express frustration matters. If every conversation feels like an attack, your partner will start shutting down instead of listening. To stop this cycle, shift from blame to feelings. Instead of, "You never listen," try, "I feel unheard when you interrupt me." Complain and don't criticize. Focus on the behavior and not the person. Validate even if you disagree. "I get why that upset you." Because love isn't about keeping score. It's about making your partner feel safe even when things go wrong. Number 2, break the cycle of resentment. Resentment turns love into superiority. When contempt takes over, respect is lost, and your partner becomes someone to look down on instead of to grow with. The antidote? Notice it. Contempt might feel normal over time, but it's a huge red flag. So shift perspective. Instead of tearing your partner down, look for things to appreciate. Communicate with respect. Frustration is normal, but belittling is a choice. Because contempt doesn't just break your partner's heart, it's what kills the relationship. Number 3, turn conflicts into solutions. Arguments don't ruin relationships. It's how you handle them that does. If every disagreement feels like a battle, defensiveness is keeping you both stuck. Instead of fighting to be right, try this. Pause before reacting instead of defending and listen. Instead of arguing, problem solve. "You're right. I'll step up more." Communicate with respect. Again, frustration is normal, but belittling is a choice. Because defensiveness doesn't protect your relationship. It pushes your partner further away. Number 4, rebuild connection and trust. When emotional distance takes over, it's not the fights that hurt the most. It's the silence. The reconnection doesn't start with big conversations. It starts with small actions. Recognize when you're disconnecting. If you're zoning out or avoiding conversations, that's a sign. Pause, but don't disappear. Say, "I need 20 minutes, but let's talk after." Reconnect in small ways. A text, a touch, just sitting together even in silence. The goal isn't to fix everything overnight. It's to start showing up again. All right, now it's your turn. If you've ever seen even one of these horsemen in action, drop your experience in the comments. And if you've survived them and made it through, let us in so others know it's possible. And if you're new here and want more straightforward, therapist-approved breakdowns on love, communication, and keeping relationships strong, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm Jordan Travers. I'm the clinical director of Awake Therapy, and I'll see you next time.